Now that I've finally seen every single Fear Street movie, it's time to rank them. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today, I am giving you my ranking of all 4 Fear Street movies, including the newly released Prom Queen, which is now streaming on Netflix. Check out my review linked up above. But before I get into this ranking, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below your ranking of all 4 Fear Street movies, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. I mean, quite a bit. And if you want to watch all 4 of these movies with me, you can actually do that on my Patreon. I have commentary tracks where you guys pull up the movie, sync up, and watch along with me. Had a blast with them, and people have said they're fun tracks, so be sure to go give them a watch on Patreon. But I say we get down to business. Let's get down to slashing, if you will. In 4th place, my least favorite of the movies is going to be the newly released Fear Street Prom Queen. Now, this is still a very serviceable, entertaining watch. It's a slasher movie. You're gonna get that blood and carnage that you go to a slasher for. The limbs are flying in this movie specifically, and because it's set for the most part at a high school prom, it does have that one location element going for it that kind of amps up the mystery and the, intensity at times. It also introduces a new character to the franchise in Laurie Granger, who has an established backstory, has some past demons, and she definitely is easy to root for. On top of that, the movie embraces the 80s. It's the only Fear Street movie set in the 80s, and you can tell from the soundtrack basically having the greatest hits of the 80s on replay to the musical score itself having this synth sound that reminded me a lot of Stranger Things. The movie just screamed 1980s. That goes for the costume design, the hair and makeup department, everything about it. If you're a fan of all things 1980s, there will be something for you to take away from this movie and enjoy positively. However, I do feel that for the most part, it ended up going the formulaic, generic slasher route, where by the time the 3rd act rolls around and there's some pretty major reveals, they felt a little underwhelming once you take a step back, and you kind of don't have that rich backstory or lore that the trilogy movies had, which make this one feel a bit more forgettable and unmemorable when compared to the trilogy. Again, I would still go back and watch this, but if I'm comparing it to even recent slashers outside of the Fear Street franchise as of late, I'm going to a movie like Hard Eyes over this. I'm going to a movie like Thanksgiving over this. It's a bummer, but it is the weak link. It's a fine little one-off Fear Street movie. I hope that Netflix continues to make these, because I know R.L. Stine has made hundreds of books, I don't know, a lot of these Fear Street books, and so they can continue to make these, and I'm all game for that. I just think this one is a step down or drop off when compared to the other 3. But number 3 on my franchise ranking is going to be Fear Street Part 3, 1666. This is the trilogy capper, the final film in the Fear Street trilogy, and about that first hour of this movie takes place in the year 1666, following Sarah Fier, the person who's been referenced in the first 2 movies, this witch who we really had no idea who she was. And the cool thing about this movie is they actually get the cast from the first 2 movies to come back and play these characters in flashback form. So the actress who plays Dina is playing Sarah Fier. We see Sarah Fier as the actress who plays Dina, but in reality, there's a different actress who really is playing her, if that makes sense. It's a pretty neat way to incorporate the other cast and also kind of emphasize character relationships in present day. Even though those actors aren't the same characters, it just makes sense when you watch it. This movie gave us some major answers that are really important to understanding the trilogy as a whole. They gave us clarity on things with these flashbacks, so I get why they did that, but I can't help but feel as though the first hour is a bit slow-moving and somewhat disconnected from the rest of the trilogy. Again, huge revelations are made that are important to understanding the last half of this movie, but it is still my least favorite of the trilogy. The final half of this movie commits to being a full-on Part 2 to Fear Street 1994, even hitting us with the title card. I was like, hell yeah, let's do this thing. And we're back in the 90s. We've got Dina and her brother. We also have Ziggy, Sadie Sink's character from the second film, but she's all grown up now and older, and so we see her played by Jillian Jacobs. And it's just fascinating because this trilogy takes time to, develop characters in their own films pretty much at different phases in life. We are able to appreciate character relationships 10 times more in 1666 than we are in other movies because we've gone on this journey through different phases of life with these characters. And they go full Home Alone at the end of this movie, setting up these traps around the mall to take down the big bad villain Nick Good along with all the other killers. It was awesome. To me, Part 3 wraps up the trilogy in a very clever and satisfying manner. It was evident that from the start of this trilogy they had a plan. they executed that plan. It's very rare nowadays for movie franchises to have these through lines and sense of connectivity, and Fear Street knew exactly what they were doing from the jump. So kudos to them for sticking the landing with the trilogy. It might be my least favorite of the three, but it's still a very enjoyable watch. Coming in at number 2, my runner-up of the trilogy is going to be Fear Street Part 1, 1994. This first part was a solid slasher. The cast really carried a lot of the film for me. Their dynamic that formed throughout. Fred Hetchinger was my favorite character in this movie. Just had no idea he was going to be in this. He is one of the emperors from Gladiator 2, but he's been in a lot of films recently, and I had no clue that he was even in this movie. He had multiple moments that got me laughing, specifically when he's on the bus and he moons the car behind them. I busted out laughing. He mooned their ass. That's incredible. Fred Hetchinger might be my favorite character so far. Something that sets this first Fear Street movie apart, and this trilogy as a whole when compared to your basic slashers, is that rich lore and backstory. You got the town of Shadyside and Sarah Fier, this backstory that's set up about a witch, and we don't know all the answers at first, so there's this sense of mystery surrounding her. There's this idea introduced that if, you touch the bones or bleed on the bones, then she kind of possesses you in a sense. And so when you're watching it on first viewing without the knowledge of the second two films, you're like, oh my gosh, we're clearly building up to this witch returning, possessing people and having them kill others. Like, that blends the elements of, say, Scream, like with this conventional slasher, with more of a demonic film. And so it makes for something fresh that we hadn't really seen. In fact, this movie had your homages to your slashers like Scream, like Halloween, but also it had a Stranger Things vibe to it, except it's set in the 90s. A lot of this movie and the third are set at this mall. Felt like a 90s version of Starcourt Mall from Stranger Things. And it's no surprise, I'm a Stranger Things guy, so seeing anything remotely in the ballpark of Stranger Things, just based on vibes alone, I'm gonna eat that up. There are some gnarly kills. I'd say the nastiest kill in the franchise is in this movie, and it involves a bread cutter, I believe it is, or yeah, I think that's what, like one of those things that makes bread loaves. Disgusting. Now, this movie is not as carnage-filled as other slashers, and it is a little late in the runtime when they finally start to ramp up those kills, but they aren't afraid to hold back once they go full sending on that third act, I'd say. Weirdly enough, this movie also had elements of, like, the Final Destination franchise, and maybe I'm just saying that because I finished a binge rewatch of that series, so every single scene I was like, oh my gosh, watch out for that little thing hanging in the background. They're gonna get crushed by that sign. They're gonna get hit by that bus. And that could just be my brain at work in Final Destination mode, but also there was like this atmosphere of the Blair Witch Project in play as well. So I kind of view this movie as like a big blender of some of the best horror films of our time and like elements from all these different horror genres. And then they made this beautiful creation that is Fear Street. And this movie launched the trilogy perfectly. It's a super fun watch, and it's my second favorite, but there's one movie in the trilogy and the whole series that I rank above it, and that is Fear Street Part 2, 1978. I just find nowadays that movies set in the 70s are my jam. I rewatched Dazed and Confused the other day. That's one of my favorite all-time coming-of-age movies that I watch with my friends often, and I had a blast with that, but the 70s vibe here, it just hits different. This is a summertime movie. It's set at a summer camp. There's something special about those summer nights when it's like 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, the sun is setting. It's still hot outside, but there's a bit of a cool breeze every now and then. That feeling, if I could bottle that up and take that as a pill every morning just to feel happy inside, I would. But this entry stands out the most to me because it has a clear identity. It's a 70s movie. It's a full-on summertime slasher. They're clearly paying homage to like movies like Friday the 13th. On top of that, Sadie Sink is the main character here playing Ziggy. There are some really smart reveals made in the third act that are almost misdirections. They trick the audience out in a really clever way at one point. And they further the lore maybe the most of the three movies with Sarah Fier, her backstory, and how to maybe take her down and put a stop to what's happening in 1994, present day technically, which we'll see come to fruition in the back half of part 3. They definitely upped the kill count in this movie. Of all 4 Fear Street movies, to me, this one has the most kills. I don't know if that's even accurate. I'd have to go back and like look at a kill count video or something, but to me, this one had the most carnage, the most kills. Again, there's clearly a lot of love for the classic slashers on display here. Sadie Sink, supremacy, by the way. She's Max Mayfield in Stranger Things. I love her, but she crushes it here. At every project she's been in, she knocks it out of the park. So to me, this is the one movie of all 4 that I can see myself going back to the most on its own, which is why it's my favorite. I could watch the Fear Street trilogy, you know, in one weekend or in a day if I wanted to, but if I just have the urge to watch like a summertime slasher flick, I'm going to Fear Street 1978. Plus, that soundtrack absolutely rules. This movie's fun. It's summertime right now, right? It's May 22nd. I know a lot of people are getting out of school, so there's just something about this movie, the time of year I watched it, as we head into the months of June and July, where I'm like, you know what? This one's my jam more than all the others. I think this is the consensus favorite. It's my favorite, and to me, it is the best of the Fear Street films. But that's just my ranking of all 4 Fear Street movies. Let me know yours in the comments down below and hit that like button. Subscribe to that notification bell, and if you want to watch all 4 Fear Street movies with me, you can do that over on my Patreon. $5 a month. Anything goes a very long way. Got lots of fun content coming as we head into the summer movie season. But that's going to do it. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.